So this is your own Ann Munster. When was this, Ann?
A week ago this morning.
Okay.
So we didn't know about it. Rhonda Swift told me that he was going to be there, and we got the word out, and we had 5 people there. We had fun.
So this is really important because what Ann does here is really, I don't know if you even knew you were doing it, but so when you hear,
we've been doing monthly reviews.
So typically when progressives talk about the effects of climate change, they talk a lot of facts and figures and never talk about systemic causation. Does everybody know what systemic causation is? Right? It means that we can have an overtly cold or snowy winter because of what's happening systemically with climate change. Right? The ocean temperatures are rising, so that pushes the jet stream further north and makes a bigger. So that's what systemic causation is. Progressives never talk about systemic causation. Even the progressive scientists, they'll say, well, we don't think that climate change is causing locally severe weather. We can't draw that conclusion, right? Because they're talking about direct causation. Systemic causation is what progressives need to talk about with everything. And we'll get to, conservatives love direct causation, right? Kids are not doing well in school because schools and teachers are terrible and they're failing. That's direct causation. It's easy, it's intellectually lazy, generally untrue, but very easy, right? People break the law because they're bad. Put them in jail. Right? Doesn't talk anything about the effects of socioeconomic factors, mental health issues, whatever. Right? Okay. So here we go.
You guys decide who's
okay, so I appreciate the fact that you and Mary share the same goal. You say that you want to prosper, safe, and secure.
Prosperous, safe, and secure.
You want that, and I agree with you. And that as chair of Homeland Security, the vision or mission statement for Homeland Security is to enhance our economic prosperity and protect our national security.
Okay, this is important. The moral role of government is to protect and empower. She just said that. So what did she do? She just framed the mission of Homeland Security progressively, is to protect and empower people. That's government's role. I don't care what level of government is. That is the fundamental role of government. That's why government is different from corporations.
But Scott, I was only repeating what he had told us.
Right. That's important though, because you used his words and you provided context to a progressive view of climate change. That's a fundamental truth. If he says we're trying to protect and empower in the Department of Homeland Security, but we're not going to do anything about climate change, what does he do? He's denying a fundamental truth about climate change. Okay.
So you laid out 4 goals then as part of that mission statement, and that would be border security, cyber attacks, protecting our grid, and elevating the Secretary of Homeland Security in his job. Well, our Defense Department, and we've been talking a lot about military this morning, our Defense Department has declared that our greatest threat to our national security is climate change.
Okay. The role of government is to protect and empower. The government has said that the greatest threat is climate change.
And that part of government the conservatives like, the Defense Department. Yeah.
Right. And it's not in your mission statement. Why? What is the most common mistake progressives make when talking about an issue? They state the what? Listen to what Ron Johnson does.
Is climate change. Climate change presents the greatest national threat to our security. And I'm wondering, why isn't addressing the threat of climate change one of the goals of Homeland
I
Security?
disagree with that assessment. We're sitting here in Wisconsin, 20-some thousand years ago. This was covered by law.
What was that? He's starting to talk about facts.
Oh my God. Yeah, and then I chimed in about weather
Right.
and climate.
We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going.
I travel the country, and we are dealing with extreme weather.
No.
This is weather is one thing, climate change is another. Weather and the extreme weather, the extreme weather is due to climatic change.
Systemic causation.
More frequent and more intensive storms. I've been caught in them, and just last week, what did we have? 50 tornadoes touching down in a span of a day. Climate change is undeniable, but you are denying it.
I do not deny climate change. When's the last time you heard Ron Johnson say, I do not deny climate change? It gets better. It does get better. You guys started talking about systemic causation, right? Personal stories, lots of tornadoes, lots of extreme weather. This is systemic causation because of climate change. Now he's not denying it, but it gets better. Facts.
And it shows values in 4 or 5 climate cycles, some during the 15, 10, 20.
Facts.
Carbon dioxide levels have never been higher.
So let's just say we disagree on this, and I do not climate change.
This is good.
Actually, no, let's
Hold on.
look at the urine lawnmower. Okay?
You're not going to look at Miami, which is low down the water, flooded right now.
The reason too that this is managing climate change, it also says we should spend a dime.
He just evoked the idea of man-made climate change. He just said it.
He bought the Kool-Aid.
And even if he doesn't agree with man-made climate change, he evoked the idea.
Addressing it because our limited resources are spent better elsewhere.
Now he just said we shouldn't spend money on it because our resources are needed elsewhere. So he's now engaged in negation. He's saying the negation of we should invest in climate change science, right? He's saying we shouldn't. He's engaging in negation. Do you see how effective this is? He's forced into an untenable position because he is faced with a well-framed question that is forcing him to admit to fundamental truths. And it gets better because
If you really want to protect people, you're better off doing that. So again, this isn't worth getting into a big long
Senator, the displacement of people that will occur when a typhoon rushes to Bangladesh or other factors come.
somebody's talking about displacement of people because of climate change, right? This is now leading into a greater discussion of the systemic results of climate change. See, that's why this is important. So, well done.
But then can I ask, after this and it's on tape,
Okay.
were there press releases written, Ron Johnson admits? Yeah,
The press wasn't there. He sent this invitation out. Get on the conservative email list.
Oh, I'm on them all.
See what's
I'm on
going
them all,
on.
yeah.
But
He didn't admit anything other than that we used to have an ice age and now we don't, so climate changes.
And
And
I think what is important to recognize here in terms of all of us is that we need to show up.
Mhm.
Show up. Because people will think, oh, Ron Johnson, he's not going to listen anyway. Why bother? But see, American Bridge was there, and we didn't know that. So it did get videotaped, and now it's shared.
I mean, it's when I
Going up.
when I uploaded this, it had a couple thousand views on YouTube.
Wow. Ian's famous.
So, but the idea,
American Bridge.
it's a pack.
I'm sorry, it's a group all over the country, and they have people that attend Republican-held town hall meetings. And she told me that she gave me a card, and she said, we just go around and we listen and we look for people who are asking good questions.
And they're a PAC. They're a political action committee. For Democrats.
They follow, they go.
They go to it's.
They film the Republicans.
Yeah, they try to catch the Republicans making mistakes.
Like in Virginia.
Thank you. Right, they're like media trackers for the left. Yep. So, here's what we're going to do for the next hour and 45 minutes. As much, but I want to save time for group discussion about a message for all of you. So, same teams, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each team gets a specific issue. Team 1, education. Team 2, healthcare. Team 3, the environment. Team 4, economics. And Team 5, women's freedom. Any aspect. It can be healthcare, it can be equal wages, it can be whatever. Okay?
Doug, can we trade? I don't want to be an economic.
Too bad.
Yeah, environment.
Too bad. This is
Those should overlap.
Right.
It shouldn't matter, right?
right. Right. Issues don't matter. Look, issues don't matter. When you talk to your relatives, and friends, don't just talk to them about your pet issue. Think outside the box. That's what this is about.
Talk to them about their pet issue.
Yeah, exactly. What if you're uncomfortable with economics and it's your next door neighbor's favorite thing? Do you just avoid them?
Yeah.
Well, don't. Right? So here's how you can, right? So here's how you, now, you're all going to break into your groups. You're going to answer the following questions about your issue, and you're going to get plenty of time to do this and ask questions. Number 1, what is considered common sense on your issue? Not common sense in your little progressive Facebook world of 32 people. Okay, I'm exaggerating. That's how big mine is. So, media, what do you hear on the ABC Nightly News? What do you hear on Fox News? What do you see in the Green Bay Press Gazette or the Appleton Post-Crescent? What do you see in the newspaper? That's question number 1. What are the core values evoked in that common sense idea on your issue? And are they conservative or progressive? Maybe there are some progressive ones out there. It'd be good to hear what they are. Then, if it's not, what are the progressive values? What is important about that issue that is expressed through progressive values? Yep.
When you talk about common sense, you're not talking about common sense.
Yes.
At all.
Yes. Common sense is conservative.
Right. I mean, you're not talking about our version of common sense. You're talking about the conservative version.
You are not common sense.
Well,
Very few people here are common sense. So, what do you hear in the media? What do you read in the newspaper? What do you see on TV? Pop culture. That's common sense. Look, I got news for you.
Common sense is not an absolute.
It is defined by the dominant frame. And it is dynamic. But the thing is, how many times do you hear a progressive or Democrat say we need common sense solutions? Terrible. Terrible. Progressive ideas are not in public discourse. Progressive ideas are not common sense. So, come up with a short message on your issue that evokes, after you've gone through those steps, I'm trying to get you to think critically. Right? This is like when you go to college. You don't learn what, you learn how to think. trying to get you to think critically. Come up with a short message that evokes a progressive frame. By short, I mean that you can say in 5 or 6 seconds. Okay, no long discourse about the systemic nature of climate change, blah, blah. Something that you could say to a person from the media that would fit a 5-second news clip. I got news for you. I was interviewed by Fox 6 in Milwaukee for a piece on truancy that ran in May. I interviewed for an hour as the expert on truancy in education, and guess how long my soundbite was on a, well, no, it was like a 4-minute investigation piece. It was about 35 seconds. Well, right. Then what we're going to do is we're going to come back as a group and share your findings. And I'm going to write critical aspects on the board. Because, or I might actually use, because then I can get bigger, more things together. I'm going to write them on the board. Because there's a point to all this. Okay? So, to get your juices flowing and get your thinking in terms of common sense, right? I've got some examples of common sense. This is what you'll hear in the media about our public schools.
President Obama says we can't expect students to do their best if their schools aren't state-of-the-art. Take a listen.
We can't expect our kids to do their best in places that are literally falling apart. This is America. Every kid deserves a great school, and we can give it to them.
Music columnist Ellis Hinton is here. Ellis, okay, yeah, we all know that a nice school is great, whiteboards and computers, but the notion that we can't expect the best from our kids no matter what the conditions of the schools are, feels to me the president is actually throwing out an excuse to any kid out there that wants to say, you know what, I can't do well because of this, and I can't speak the English the right way, and I just can't do it because I didn't get the same kind of schools that maybe the kids in the suburbs got.
Charles, are you coming out to tumble down schools?
I'm saying that.
You want ragged
Kids got
schools
kids,
and
right?
messed up schools? I don't have kids,
But if you have kids, you
about
send them to
kids.
school, would you want them to do their best, period?
Sure, the kids.
No, would you want them to do their best?
Of course you want them to.
Under any circumstance.
You get the point. You hear that all the time. Right? Why should we we've been dumping so much money into public education, and yet schools are still failing. You hear that all, and it is accepted as common sense. That is direct causation, yes, exactly. Kids are not learning because schools and teachers are failing. Therefore,
Kids aren't doing their best.
Kids aren't doing their best. If they just pulled themselves up, right, kids aren't disciplined. You get the point. Okay. Next one. Healthcare. I got news for you. Fox News is expressing what's common sense in public discourse and pop culture.
So by common sense, rather than what we consider common sense to be, is that you're actually thinking that common sense is considered to be the thoughts of most people.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So it's not the common sense that we consider being.
Right. Right.
Because we don't have cable, we don't know anything about common sense.
Keep it that way. Oh, did you have a question?
I'm just thinking it's the loudest voice. It's the person that does the most talking.
It's the frame that is reinforced the most. And thus, yep. Okay, healthcare. I gotta skip ahead just a
First from Fox at 3 o'clock in New York City, the high-stakes battle over President Obama's health care overhaul has reached the nation's highest court. Today, marking the beginning of 6 hours, scheduled hours of arguments.
Okay, here we go.
Day.
I gotta jump ahead a bit.
Breaking down, and what is going on today again now?
The court is not supposed to hear a case. unless it is timely. In other words, you just can't ask the court to declare a statute unconstitutional because you think it's unconstitutional. You have to have been harmed by it, or the harm coming your way has to be fairly clear. Ordinarily, the court decides when a case is timely. The legal phrase is ripeness. Is it right? In the case of paying taxes, Congress has decided when it is timely for the court to hear a challenge to a tax. And Congress has said, you want to challenge a tax, you pay it first. You give us the money first, and then you challenge whether or not we have the right to take it from you.
You get the idea.
No, I missed it. I don't.
He's talking about health care in terms of what? Taxes. Which is the penalty for not having it being taxes. It puts the whole health care issue into the market, the market frame, right? It's all about spending. It's all about taxation. Look, the Supreme Court decided it on the Interstate Commerce Clause. They codified the Affordable Care Act as being a function of the market, of interstate commerce.
And the frame, the common sense is that I'm paying for some lazy bum's health care with my taxes.
Right. That's exactly right. Okay. You guys are really good. I didn't even need to have... This is from a BBC story on the U.S. elections implications on... It's just pictures going over the audio, but it's a fantastic piece. Love the accents too, by the way. Big Doctor Who fan. So.
But the issue of climate change is back in U.S. politics with a bang in the wake of Superstorm Sandy. The mayor of New York, Michael Bloomberg, has unexpectedly backed President Obama, partly because of that. Our correspondent David Miller has been following the race to the White House. He's been looking at the contentious issue of the environment in the USA.
I've come to the Shenandoah National Park in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. Americans love their national parks, of course, but environmental issues really haven't played a role at all in this presidential election campaign. Hardly surprising, perhaps, given the recent economic difficulties this country has faced. But the arrival of Superstorm Sandy, which battered the northeast of the US, has pushed one environmental issue back up the political agenda. That issue, climate change.
President Obama promised to begin to slow the rise of the oceans and to heal the planet. My promise is to help you and your family.
My promise is to help you and your family.
Presidential challenger Mitt Romney playing the climate change issue for laughs at an election rally. That was before Hurricane Sandy hit the East Coast. Yesterday he was heckled by an environmental campaigner at an event in Virginia. The man unfurled a banner which read, "End Climate Silence." He was shouted down by the crowd, which began chanting, USA. So does that response suggest that many Republicans see environmentalism as somehow unpatriotic? Environmental campaigner Mark McLean believes attitudes to green issues within the Republican Party began to change in the 1980s.
The anti-environmental movement, as I'll call it, really has its roots in the 1980s under President Reagan's administration. He was the first one who really came out and said, well, I think he's quoted as saying, tree is a tree, how many you need to look at? And he promulgated a philosophy in that party, and he became the patron saint of that party and that philosophy, that environmental regulation was a liberal crackpot thing.
The mayor of New York, Michael Bloomberg, has waded into the...
Environmental regulation is a crackpot thing. You hear this all the time. Right? Tree huggers, you bunch of tree huggers, you know, it's going to cost jobs. Right? Job killer. There we go. Okay. I think this is the last one. Oh no, there's one more.
Off and running today, Senator Marco Rubio of Florida threw his hat into the presidential race just one day after Hillary Clinton made her run official. And both had very different ideas on the economy and policy. John Harwood usually reports for us from Washington. We're happy to have you here in studio tonight. John, good evening. Let's talk a little bit about the economic approaches of the various declared candidates. Hillary Clinton yesterday seemed to make income disparity, the middle class income growth, her basic thrust. How would she compare with the others?
Well, that's exactly where she's going, and she hasn't laid out particular policies yet, but there was a report recently that came out from a think tank linked to Hillary Clinton that is suggestive of where she's going. It involves spending money, education, infrastructure, job training, but also requiring business to do more to cut workers into the profit that they're making, profit sharing, ways in which people can buy stock in companies that they may be working for, a way to figure out how to take an economy where corporations are making profit, but workers aren't getting wages, make those two go together.
And what about the Republican candidates that are out there and running? What can we expect to hear in terms of economy and the deficit and taxes and all those key top line items?
Well, they're also focusing and making a point of saying middle class incomes are stagnant. They're going to focus on inequality, much different solutions. Marco Rubio, for example, getting in the race today, has got a massive tax cut that he acknowledges would expand the deficit. He would eliminate the estate tax, eliminate the capital gains tax, lower the top rate to 35%, lower the business rate to 25%, and it would provide a lot of tax relief at the top, also for the middle class. The question is, are people willing to accept an expansion of the deficit? He's going to test that.
Is he a classic supply sider in that sense? In other words, lower rates, I can see the tax revenues are going to go down in the short term, but we're going to get better growth out of it in the long term, and that will ultimately raise tax revenue?
The preferred term right now is a growth Republican.
That's important. A growth Republican. That's important. Growth for a long time is in the conservative frame. Economic growth is in the conservative frame. So when you hear a Democratic candidate and a Republican candidate, and they're both talking about what? Growth. They're both talking about income inequality. They're both talking about stagnant wages. But what's the Republican talking about? Cutting taxes, cutting taxes. Why? No, because the public is immoral, because government is immoral. Right. Critically important to provide a stark contrast to that.
Growth is one of those things that can be used in many ways, and I'm asking you whether this is a good way to work. Cancer is a growth.
Very good. Cancer is a growth. Absolutely. Change the metaphor. Right. Mm-hmm.
I love that. The preferred term now is.
Okay. Hopefully you've all had time to let your. But this is important because this is actually from Sam Cedar, who is a relatively progressive media person. But this is really interesting.
Once again, we heard the talking points all through the week. The problem with health insurance, and of course, with the Affordable Care Act, there are a lot of problems with it. I certainly have talked about them, but one of them is not the fact that we require in health insurance now to cover some things that women are going to need and some things that men are going to need. Here is one guy complaining about what women are going to need in their health insurance, but here I am complaining about things like Viagra or colonoscopies or prostate exams or things like OxyContin. We don't all need OxyContin, but this guy has a problem with women's health care.
I think, as usual, folks, Obama has things exactly backwards. Insurance is being stretched to cover things it should never have to cover. And it didn't have to cover until Obamacare came along and mandated these things get covered, and all it does is drive up prices, like breast pumps and birth control pills and wellness plans. I mean, all that stuff, all this touchy.
You know who it doesn't drive up prices for? Women. That's who it doesn't drive up prices for.
That stuff, all this touchy-feely, liberal, do-good stuff that ought to never be part of insurance. Buy your own birth control pill. Buy your own breast pump. Why? That's not a health issue.
Buy your own.
Used to be our choice to go out and buy a birth control pill.
Choice.
Used to be your choice to buy a breast pump.
The market.
If you want to do that, pay for it yourself. But no, these things are now part of insurance. It's not insurance, it's welfare.
There you have it, folks. Welfare for women. That's it.
Okay. We haven't talked much about this issue, but it's important because of what Rush Limbaugh said. First, you have to understand that the conservative moral frame depends on a hierarchy, social hierarchies. God over man, man over nature, men over women. Okay? Isn't it interesting? So when you talk about birth control and things like that, conservatives think of it this way, right? The woman was undisciplined and therefore immoral for getting pregnant when she didn't want to. So the pregnancy and having that child is her punishment for being immoral. Okay, this is literally the metaphorical expression of what they literally believe.
No man had anything to do with it.
And exactly.
Don't you believe in immaculate conception?
Men are to blame for 100% of pregnancies.
Strange but true.
A direct causation.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, I would say systemic, but
I would say it takes two to tango.
it does. Right. So when you hear, but the other thing, he evoked two important things. First of all, that hierarchy, men over women, right? The women are immoral and undisciplined, right? But also this idea of healthcare as the market. It's a choice, right? They're denying the fact that this is a fundamental freedom issue for women. This is about women having the freedom to control their own bodies and lives.
Amen.
Period.
What about penal pumps? They didn't
Okay, so you get the idea. All right, so here are the questions again. Why don't we say, how about we check in, does everybody know their issue still? Okay, good. How about we do a check-in in about a half hour and see where everybody's at. If you need a little more time to have your message, great. But the next segment is about all of you as a group, so we got to have time for that. And I can answer questions. Allons-y. All right. Group number one. You had education, right?
Yep.
Is that right? Okay.
You just put the message, right?
No, I want, what is common sense and education? Just a couple quick words. Oh, thank you. Woo. Thought I was having a stroke there for a second. Flashing.
Schools are failing. She's writing.
Schools are, so common sense. Schools are failing. Anything else?
Teachers are bad.
Oh.
Parents should have choices.
And guess what? Unions protect bad teachers. But it fits the frame, right?
Parents are letting their kids be lazy.
Ooh. So parents are undisciplined.
Bad parents.
Waste money on administration.
Ooh, waste money. Okay, that's good. I think you get the idea.
Okay. We didn't even get to arts and music or frills and sports preparing for life.
Yeah. So clearly those are conservative values. Or those are conservative ideas. You know, self-discipline, self-discipline, and then authority. Authority is determined by the most moral figure, Governor Walker, or okay. So on the flip side, what are the progressive values about education?
Shared responsibility.
Shared responsibility. Good.
Healthy economy is dependent on an educated populace.
Ooh. That's kind of that.
Educated voters
Right.
are needed to make.
Prosperity.
They don't believe.
Right? Public education is necessary for prosperity. That kind of this, the bumper sticker idea I had was public plus education equals freedom. Right? Because you have public, common good, commonwealth, education, which is what we're talking about here. So here's this. I'm glad you brought that up, this whole prosperity thing, because look, so conservatives say education is to get a job, right? Progressives, education is to know what's meaningful in life. That's what this is. If you're living prosperity, right? Prosperity is not being rich. Prosperity is living a meaningful life. Ooh, that's good. No, it is.
But can we just use that word prosperity then?
Sure.
We can test that for, not long for sure, but I think right now conservatives don't prosperity.
In the context that they are talking about it, but we need to provide context to words like freedom and prosperity, right? Freedom in the context of public education means that education is necessary for a meaningful life. Public education provides that. So, okay, you get the idea. Do you have a short message?
Yes. Well, maybe it's not short enough.
You start, and I'll start count.
As Americans, we must continue to share responsibility for our community schools to offer opportunity for all.
That's really good. Can we distill it down a little? So, for example, if you're on Jerry Bader's show and you're the pro-education person, right? Right, but you got to say you got 5 seconds to make an impact. So say it again.
Okay, the whole thing?
Yeah, say the whole thing.
As Americans, we must continue to share responsibility for our community schools to offer opportunity for all.
That's 5 seconds.
That was pretty close, but can we distill it down just a little bit? Community.
Leave off as Americans.
Yeah, community responsibility. How community.
We have a shared responsibility for our community schools so that everybody has opportunities.
Or even just we have a shared responsibility for our community.
Yeah, that could,
Community and shared, what education is the shared responsibility?
Well, we
Hold
like
on.
to say community schools because
Hold on.
as soon as you just say education,
Hold on.
you can say, well, voucher schools.
Right.
Let's use our tax for voucher schools. So we want to emphasize
we share
the community
responsibility
schools,
for education.
and we want to emphasize it's for everybody.
Well, maybe we should say public schools then, because community schools.
Well, we had an objection to the word public.
No.
Because
No.
public schools is a specific thing. Community schools is vague, and private schools could say we are part of the community. So I don't think community schools is. You want to say public schools? That's a specific.
Well, could we just say we share responsibility for educating our youth?
Yes. So we share responsibility for. Well, but see, educating our youth. That could be private. That could be right.
But not
How about
shared responsibility?
Well, I like the idea of in our community we share responsibility for our public schools.
Yes.
Public education.
For our public schools, I mean, because you're kind of linking public schools with community. We share responsibility for our public schools. Oh.
Future generations, we share responsibilities.
No. If we have a one second.
It's already been said.
I mean, in our community, we share responsibility for our public schools, and then you could add things like that because they provide opportunity, right? Provide opportunity for every child. I mean, you could say in our community we share responsibility for our public schools because they provide opportunity for every child. I would say public schools.
The only reason we objected to public is because in my conversations with some Republicans, they say, when you say public, that their frame then, public is bad. And
Public
what
is
they
welfare.
hear
But you need to,
is public is bad.
no, right, they think public is bad, but you need to define that the public is necessary for this.
But we already
With,
said only the community.
But don't they then
no,
turn
you're,
off when they hear that?
hold on. Community, so when you say in our community, you're evoking the idea of shared responsibility.
Right.
Okay. Public schools is a specific thing that is necessary to provide opportunity, which is provided by the shared responsibility in the community. See, this is a thing. This is not a value. Public schools is a thing that comes out of our shared responsibility as a community.
You're not very religious.
So we're looking for a specific noun as a value?
No.
No, but education, the progressive,
Education is the noun, right?
the progressive argument about education that we chose to take is that public schools are necessary.
Right.
So that's what we're arguing for. Is
Dale?
Public schools.
Citizens that are in there, because that's what we're really talking about, educating citizens so that they'll know.
That's what the community is supposed to.
Well, that's a, but, no, that's a, I mean, you could share, in our community, we share public schools. Provide every share. I mean, citizens, as citizens,
In our community, we share responsibility for educating citizens.
say that again.
That could support vouchers.
Yeah.
That could support vouchers. You need to use public schools.
No, but public needs to be in there, because if you just say educate citizens, that means voucher schools, that means charter schools, that means
Well, charter schools are public, so.
not all of them,
No.
In Wisconsin they are, but in other states they aren't.
but not in Milwaukee and Racine.
Right.
You know, this is good. I mean, you could modify it by saying as citizens in our community, we share responsibility.
I think he's talking about educating future citizens. That was in our earlier discussion. We said, you know, the purposes of education for, you need an educated workforce, you need educated
I mean, this doesn't have to be
citizens,
perfect, but this gives you the idea of critical points. Look, this is not for me to tell you what to say.
Right.
Because here's the point. Conservatives didn't wake up one day back in like 1940 and say, we're going to say this. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They had think tanks. They have focus groups. They have academics. They've had decades to work on this. And what we talked about this earlier, and George talked about it in the video, right? Anything meaningful that you think comes from what? Physical experience. This is physical experience. The physical interaction you're having now is more important than reading a book or watching a video. Yes. Oh, we have lots. Okay.
When we were writing this, I pushed for using the phrase "as Americans."
Oh,
or
yeah.
As Americans, we have always. And the theory is that you set it up to say that this is an American value, and if you're opposed, you're somehow un-American.
That's exactly right. Yes.
That's what. Yes.
Yeah.
Liberals don't use the term American quite often.
But that's okay. We should.
Yeah, we should.
Right.
Like patriotic.
You know, like another, like, you know.
That's worth doing.
Yes.
as Americans.
Or you could say you could say this. If you want to make it more local, you could say in Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, we share responsibility for our public schools. Or in Wisconsin, here's an even better one. In Wisconsin, we share responsibility in our communities.
How about even better, as Wisconsinites?
As Wisconsinites. Yeah, as Wisconsinites, we share responsibility in our communities for our public schools. Meaning, if you don't do that, you are not a good Wisconsinite.
Right. Yeah. And that goes into having.
Okay. As Wisconsinites, or in Wisconsin, we share responsibility in our communities for our public schools.
A question, when you're doing this, do you try to stay away from words that evoke the conservative?
Yes.
Right?
Correct.
So if
within the
like
context, yeah.
Public schools, but if you say public and that evokes a bad, something bad in their mind,
I
do
see.
you stay away from that?
No.
Word?
Because what this phrase does, remember we talked about how conservatives conceal that truth about private prosperity depending on the public, right? This phrase exposes that truth. This phrase unveils the truth that opportunity for every child, our communities, public schools, depend on all of us together working through community, right?
I was told by a Republican that as soon as they hear the word public, they think welfare, and their little brains turn off. And that was by
And public is the heart of Republican.
All context.
Yeah.
I mean, it all has to do with context. And right, you're going to get some crazy people that just, you'll never change. But look, what's the percentage of people we need to change to get to 51%? 10? 7?
Yeah. About 7. Yeah.
Right, so go out and change 10% of the people's minds.
We share responsibility to stay in our public schools, or sustainability of problem?
Sustainability is a little bit of a problem. A little bit. All right, let's move on. Group 2 was healthcare. Okay. What's common sense on healthcare?
Healthcare is a product.
Product, good. Product, market.
It's a choice.
Ooh, choice. Okay, here's why choice is important, right? You can make a bad choice when you're buying something, right? And the fact that it's a terrible product or you made the bad choice, it's your own fault.
Right.
Okay, good. Make sure that's clear.
Okay, health, okay. The ACA is intruding on my personal freedom.
Oh, yeah. No, that's good. Actually, it's not ACA, it's Obamacare. Obamacare is intrusive on personal life. Right, tyranny.
We can't afford it, it's too expensive.
Right,
Healthcare.
product, market,
Yeah.
yep.
Then we had underserving people should not receive health care.
Underserving people.
undeserving.
Oh, undeserving. Undeserving. Okay, good. Okay, good. Right. So if you don't have health care, it's your own fault.
Right, because you can't hold a job.
Right. Okay.
Or get a good enough job.
Right.
Right. Okay. Core values are obviously conservative.
Yes.
Okay. Conservative. So what are on the opposite end? Progressive values.
Healthcare is a right.
Careful. Right. I mean, a right is not. It's not a. But it is.
Okay. Empathy.
Right.
Shared responsibility.
Shared. Right. So empathy, shared responsibility. Exactly. Thank you. Freedom. Right. Not a right. Freedom. Try being. If you are afraid that at any moment you could have a catastrophic medical situation, are you free?
No.
You know, can you live in this society without health care and be free? No. Okay, so it's freedom.
Yeah. We had that.
Yep, good. You want to take a stab at a message?
Oh, we came up with so many. We did.
Give me the best one.
Well, this is what I think is the best.
Okay, so if it isn't good, it's your fault.
Healthcare for all provides prosperity for all.
Ooh, say that again. Healthcare
For all provides prosperity. Or could be promotes prosperity.
for all provides prosperity for all. Okay. Prosperity. No. Let's stick with that. Okay. For all. Who said that? You get a gold star. Community. Let's translate the for alls into community.
Yeah, we had one that was kind of like.
Okay. So, healthcare. If everybody in your community has healthcare, what are they? No. They're healthy.
That's what Justin said. Yeah, he said a healthy community makes a healthy nation.
Thank you. Who said that?
Justin.
A healthy community is a healthy community is a prosperous
Society.
No, not productive. Prosperous, free, something like that. Easy. A healthy community is a prosperous community. Wow. Now, see any connections with education? An educated community is a prosperous community, a healthy community. Okay. Good job. Group number 3. Which, economics? Oh, environment. I had them all out of order. Okay. Attention, mesdames et messieurs. Common sense.
So we have 11.
Give me like the top 3.
I don't know what the top 3 are.
Regulations are bad.
Well, job killer.
Oh, there, yes. Yes! Wait, who said that?
And here's a snowball!
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Plenty of water.
Plenty of water.
The weather is fine.
The more metaphorical, the better. Right?
Science is a fiction.
Scientific, yeah.
You know, even more so, what do they call it now? They call it junk science.
Yeah, junk science.
Right? Junk science.
Normal variability.
Right. You get the.
God will provide.
Ooh, say that one.
God will provide.
God will provide.
Yeah, I've heard that God won't let us destroy the world.
Right. And if that happens, then it's His will, right? Armageddon. Okay.
The rapture.
No, they're not. They're about personal liberty. We'll get to that. Wait, hold on. Shh, I need to hear. Sorry.
Core value, which is question 2.
Yes.
Personal freedom.
Liberty. Personal liberty.
Personal liberty.
Yep.
Whatever. And then the other core value evoked by the common sense would be, we didn't get to the right words here, but authoritarian or strict father, God over man,
Man over nature. Yep.
That whole hierarchy of control. And
That's right.
Dominion.
Whatever you're going to give us a good word for that.
Well, no, man over nature is exactly right. Personal liberty. The other one obviously is small government. The job killers. So the regulation is the killer. So it's small government. Yep. But you got. I mean, the two big ones are the personal liberty. The man over nature is huge. Yep. So what are the progressive values? This is not.
Shared responsibility.
Okay.
Stewardship.
We are all connected.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Response. Give me all these hard words.
IBIL.
Yeah. Okay. We are all connected. Okay, this is important because early on, George talked about how everything meaningful you understand through your physical connections with the world. Guess what? We are all physically connected to nature. Okay, perfect. Systemic causation. Physically, yes, the Native Americans have it exactly right with nature. Okay.
The other one, I think, responsibility for future generations.
Yeah, that gets to this shared responsibility, empathy, right. But this is huge. This is huge. Because conservatives, again, this is hidden in their frame. They don't want to accept that we are physically connected with nature, because then that would acknowledge systemic causation.
What about resources should be preserved and conserved?
Okay, resources is a troublesome word linguistically, because resources are to be used. Commodities, right? So talk about the land. Okay, so talk about, in the conservative, talk about the land, water, air. Because conservatives get that too, right? All your hunting friends, Joel Clayfish, who's the great white hunter, he understands this land, wanting to protect the land. He wants clean land to hunt on and fish. Nature, yep. Land, water, air, nature, right here, yep. Bingo.
The other thing we have is public benefit from a healthy environment.
So this is getting to message. Okay. Wait, say that again. Public
benefit from a healthy environment, but I was still on progressive values. That's not.
Well, okay. I mean, that's good. Say that again.
Public benefit from a healthy environment.
I'm going to put that by the message, because that public benefit from. Did you have other messages?
We have a message.
We did, but this actually works really good.
You got another one you want to throw in there?
Should we just have shared responsibility, conserve the environment, and future generations?
I mean, it becomes multi-syllabic and much longer.
Because of the interconnectedness. I'm having trouble getting it out.
See, the environment is troublesome linguistically because it is all about systemic causation.
Right.
There's no phrases or words in any language on earth that points to systemic causation. There's tons for direct causation, but there's none in systemic. So you have to find a way to start evoking and creating metaphors to do that. And I kind of think this idea of public benefit from a healthy environment. Public benefit is good. I mean,
well, here's another thing.
How about using that same thing, a healthy environment? Or it could be a healthy.
It's in Wisconsin.
hold on.
In Wisconsin, we share responsibility to protect.
In Wisconsin, we share responsibility to protect
Interconnected environment. And interconnected.
an interconnected environment. Interconnect, right. How about land, water, air?
For our communities.
That's exactly what I was getting at.
We are part of the web of the world.
Especially my feet.
In Wisconsin, we share responsibility to protect our land, water, and air for our community's future. That's pretty good. It's a good starting point. And there's common ground. What about a healthy environment? Or a healthy environment makes a healthy community.
How about I tried turning it around on you, but you.
No, go ahead. No, let me hear it.
How about a sick environment will produce sick people?
Okay, so that's good, right? Because if you're going to go negative, you want to undermine your opponent in your frame. So what he's saying is, you're saying systemically, if your environment is sick, it's going to sicken everyone in your community. Brilliant.
So you might say them together.
You could say them together. Or you could see, or if I was an active environmental group, would have one group of people providing the positive message that a healthy environment makes for a healthy community, or we share responsibility to protect for community's future. And then I would have another group, very active on social media, having a sick environment for sick people campaign. There was a great campaign done by a library in Michigan, small town library, who they were going to defund the library. It was in Michigan, and they ran an underground social media campaign saying that if you vote for this, vote yes on the referendum, something like vote yes on the referendum to burn books. I think. Yeah, and they held
people all in uproar, and then they then supported the library.
Right, and then they turned it around at the end, and they unveiled this thing saying, "Look, this is, if you pass this referendum to defund the library, it's going to cause the destruction of your library." And everybody got it. They undermined it in their frame. So sick people, I love that. Sick.
Scott, there's new research that says you can't overdo that negative message because it will shut people off. People will shut down.
There's very little negative messaging that's done effectively.
Right, especially with this, it'll shut people down.
No, I'm saying the reason that research turns out the way it does is that there's very little negative messaging that's done effectively. And that's it becomes, personal attacks, ideological attacks. It's not about effectively undermining your opponent in your frame.
This is about that people perceive overwhelm and they completely shut down because of the magnitude of it.
Oh, because they get afraid.
Yeah, and it's like it's way too
Right.
big to even grasp.
Right, but that's why I was saying you need two campaigns. You need one campaign that provides hope and a positive vision, and then you need the second campaign that undermines your opponent once you've provided a positive vision. This works. I've actually done political campaigns where this works. You're out there right away with your positive progressive vision over and over and again, and then you come into the campaign still in your frame and you undermine your opponent in your frame, which is, so for example, you would lead with this healthy environment is prosperous community, or this one, and you would get that well established. Then you start in with this idea that, look, if you don't agree with this, this is what's going to happen. Sick people, or a sick environment. Sick environment equals sick people.
So the statement actually could be flipped around, and it could become healthy land, water, and air sustains healthy community.
It absolutely could. Yes.
And that's the positive version of the negative.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's
And then
problematic about sustainability?
it's linguistically on its own. It's problematic because at this point people understand it as being too. People don't get it.
But that's what we're doing. We're trying to get.
Yeah, but let's get them to the point where they understand this. Right.
And expect it to change.
Right.
To new ideas.
Right. I'm not saying don't ever use it. I'm saying give people some context before you drop the sustainability bomb.
Yep. I guess one thing about sustainable is perhaps, the conservative frame or the Republican frame is growth, because capitalism is all about growth.
And sustainability.
And sustainable is, well, you're not growing fast enough.
Yep. You hear corporations talk about sustainability all the time. And they're not talking about sustainability in terms of environment. They're talking about capitalism, capital sustainability. So the idea is provide context first. Provide context of what do you mean by sustainability. We mean that we share responsibility to protect our land, water, and air for our future. That's sustainability. That's what we want. Not this sick environment, sick people, which is unsustainable.
If you substituted the word grows or sustains, does that
growth is
cause you to flip over into the
no, it doesn't, but not 100%, but it evokes the idea of growth,
right, that's what I meant.
which is economic. Yeah, You're kind of mixing metaphors. Yeah, becomes unclear. Okay, we'll try and leave time at the end for questions. We got 2 more to go and then the full group. So who's economics? Yep. Okay, what's common sense in economics?
Less government, private business needs less government.
Yes.
Private business needs less regulation.
Yep.
Personal initiative, self-discipline. I
Big
can
time.
do it by myself, quote Ron Johnson.
I built this, right?
Government regulation for private business, people need tax relief, business needs tax relief.
Ooh, tax relief. Tax relief is a metaphor. There's no such thing as literal tax relief, but it means that taxes are a burden, an unjust burden, right? I built this.
All by myself.
Tax relief. Tax relief equals, one second, tax relief equals personal or private, come on. Tax relief equals private success. Because you have,
work hard and play by the rules.
Work hard and play by the rules. That's, yep.
Cut the red tape with reform.
Yep. Yes, less government. Okay. Obviously, those are conservative. So what are progressive values about the economy?
We're not going to do the second one. What are core values?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just jumped into it being conservative. Sorry.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Individualism, independence, personal responsibility, and freedom.
Yeah, that's okay. I would say liberty. We need to start differentiating between liberty and freedom. Liberty is personal liberty for you to do whatever you want. Freedom comes with responsibility. Okay. For you not to impinge on others' freedoms.
Do we care about the distinction between freedom from and freedom to?
Yes, because you have to have both.
Okay.
Right. Which in the conservative frame, no. It's all about freedom to. Well, freedom to do what's in your self-interest, to further your personal success. Well, freedom from the government, but
Freedom from interference.
yes, right. But in the progressive frame, freedom comes with responsibility to not impinge on other people's freedom. So, okay, individual liberty. Sorry, what was the?
Individualism, independence, personal responsibility, and then we said freedom, and then there's some liberty.
Yeah, I would self-discipline. You can't be successful economically if you are not disciplined. This is why banksters don't go to jail. That's why the rich don't go to jail. They're considered to be disciplined and therefore moral.
Can we turn that around? I'm just curious.
What's
That is to say, if a really successful, wealthy person does harm, does something illegal, does that mean in effect that he intended to do it and that it was deliberate?
You could ask that question, yes. Yes, because it would make people think about that.
Yeah.
Right. Progressive values.
Empathy, fairness, compassion, equality, common good, shared responsibility, brother's keeper.
Brother's keeper. Good.
Quality of life.
Oh, quality of life. Very good. That's another metaphor. Quality of life. How are you able to live? Prosperity. Okay. Do you have a message?
Well, sure. We tried.
Well, let's hear it.
Let me get the right. You guys, do you want the 50th or 51st?
Give me whichever one is the best one.
Workers create profit, build strong neighborhood communities, and quality of life for all.
Workers create profit.
Build strong neighborhood communities and quality of life for all or for all.
Communities.
This is not the movie we started out with.
And
Oh, no. This was a big delivery. Yeah, it was.
The word build is a little problematic, just to point that out. And strong is also a little, like same with stand with someone, strong. Right.
How about healthy communities?
Right. Healthy communities. Right. How about thank you. Hold on. I'm getting a lot of stuff from different. Okay, so this is version 1. How about something like
Well, we had workers as profit creators create shared community and improve quality for all. Is that?
That's better.
yeah.
You know, we haven't talked at all about fairness. Is fairness a good word?
It's a very good word. In fact, hold on. In prosperous, I'm a little wordsmithing. In prosperous communities, workers receive a fair portion of profit they create. In prosperous communities, workers receive a fair portion of profit they create.
Of the profit they create?
Of just profit, of profit. Tim?
I just want to add to your first, to the value. Having worked in that environment for 30 years, the key value, as common sense, is maximize shareholder value. And if you think about maximizing shareholder value is what common sense is, then point 4 about bringing it back to the community and fair wage for your employees, those things are diametrically opposed. And the other side is totally dominating, maximize shareholder value.
Yep, that's right.
Which is why TPP and all those things are going to be bad, because they allow the multinational corporations to maximize shareholder value
And
at the expense of all that else.
yes, right.
Would you read what you've got up there?
Yes, so in prosperous communities, workers receive a fair portion of profit they create. I would start with that and wordsmith that. That goes back to this whole idea of healthy community. A healthy community is one where workers receive a fair portion of profit. Some of the other stuff is you can add in. I mean, just as a talking point, you can add in, our arguments. Fact-based argument. Aren't we all better off when we're our brother's keeper? When everyone has a better quality of life, empathy, fairness, et cetera, et cetera. Add things in. I'm just saying from terms of starting point, good. Last one.
I got a question I like to ask on the economy, which is, why do we want to create and support and live in a system that doesn't create the most quality of life for the most people?
And that goes to fairness. I mean, the reason I like this workers, profit creators thing is, as Tim was saying, we've got to diametrically change how people think of economics.
Doesn't using the term worker immediately drive the wedge that's already there, but drive the wedge deeper between capital and labor?
Yes.
And is it progressive? I'm looking
Yeah,
if
no.
I look at a place like Sweden, where they are so much happier with their government and their society at all levels, and they have a far, far smaller difference. In fact, almost no difference between CEOs and skilled workers in compensation. Fairness can play both ways. If we create fairness for workers and ignore fairness for people who have management and administrative skills, we're driving a wedge into
I see what you're saying.
Our own constituency.
Right.
Because all those folks who are going to work every day are not people who are going to work on an assembly line. That's old American economy.
Yeah, okay. Workers is anyone who works.
I know
But we need to define it that way.
Society define it that way.
Right, but we need to define it that way. I mean, that's, well, we're not doing it because, again, conservatives have succeeded in creating that wedge, creating that image of workers as being a...
But what I'm saying is we're going to alienate all those people who consider themselves to be teachers. Is a teacher a school worker? Is a professional
I
don't think teachers have data analysis a data analysis worker? Do they see themselves in that way?
As a worker?
Yeah.
Here's the question. Would you have any... Here's the thing. Do you have any problem if you work as a professional in being called someone who is a profit creator? No, of course not.
If I work in a nonprofit, yes.
Well, okay. But let's just look. The point being is that that is what defines a worker. Right? If you work for a living, if you partake in the economy through the creation of profit, you are a worker. We need to start defining that. We can't leave these co-opted some of them we can't touch because they strongly evoke the frame metaphorically. But workers doesn't. You don't very often hear a conservative politician talking about workers as profit creators. They talk about job creators.
Right. Well, and I think
So,
we should simply call them profit creators and not use the old...
well, but you need to define what a profit creator is.
How about substituting people for workers?
You could sure, people.
Yeah, I think if you substitute people,
Yeah.
if you would say value rather than profit, I think you have a much more
Profit is fine.
Especially with economics.
No, profit is fine. Here's the other thing, okay? Profit is not a... There's nothing immoral about profit. There's nothing immoral about capitalism. Right? There's nothing... Look, why do we have such a problem as progressives with somebody in business running as a progressive? Why do we have that problem? It's our own bias against what conservatives have mapped out as the way the world works. There's nothing wrong with profit, as long as it is shared fairly with the people who create it.
The problem is not the only thing we create when we work. We create value in many other ways.
Yes, we do, but in terms of redefining the role of workers and ownership, and as Thomas Piketty said, the definition of capital in the 21st century, it's critical that we start defining what the moral acquisition of profit looks like.
Right. And the Republicans have made the word worker like a bad word. We need to make that a good
Right.
word.
Well,
Yeah.
well, read it as you've changed.
In prosperous communities, well, we could say people, or you could say people who work. There's nothing wrong with that. People who work receive a fair portion of profit they create.
I like that better.
Okay. This is fantastic. This is like way better than what I could do like just sitting at the computer.
Because this is the only think tank progressives have.
All right. Women's issues. Here's the big one. What is common sense?
We picked a very specific issue, is the 20-week ban on abortion.
Thank you. I did. Go to my website. I did a blog on this on Thursday, specifically about the 20-week abortion thing. So yeah. Okay, let's.
Common sense is, well, what's the problem with banning a 20-week abortion? You know, what's the problem with that?
Can people stay after 2:30? Because this is a big issue. Okay, what's wrong with? Okay.
Abortion should not occur either early or at 20 weeks. It should not
Oh,
occur.
no abortion at all.
No abortion, yep. Government needs to protect life.
No, that's. Hold on. No, that's true.
Yeah.
Protect life. What else?
And have authority over women.
Yes.
Is this an area
Okay.
where the common sense is really everybody?
No.
Because opinion is really divided in this country.
No. This is crystal clear. Okay. What was the name of the bill? The pain.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Fetal pain, they don't want.
Right. So what the conservative anti-women people did, okay, there's two powerful metaphors that they evoked. One was that an unviable fetus is a child. Okay, they've done that all along, and that therefore an abortion is murder. It is killing that child. So they take that metaphor that people understand deep in your psyche that an unborn child is a child. We say it all the time. Okay, they took that literally. That's number one. Number two, they've now started talking about this thing where a 20-week-old fetus can feel pain.
Yeah. Pain-capable Unborn Child Protection Act.
Thank you. Say it again louder.
Pain-capable Unborn Child Protection Act.
Two metaphors in a row.
Yeah.
Pain-capable unborn child. There's a video clip of Joe Sanfilippo from Milwaukee saying that it's torture.
And the whole reason I picked 20 weeks is because sustainability starts at 22.
Right. But okay. So right. So we have the common sense is two metaphors. Two metaphors. One is that a fetus equals a child, and two is the pain, torture, pain of a child.
I think the child.
Really powerful. Okay. Obviously, these are conservative because, as you said, puts men in control of women. Okay, undisciplined women, immoral women, Eve in the Garden of Eden. Okay.
But it doesn't address personal freedom.
It absolutely addresses because women should not have control over it, and they should be disciplined. Look, it puts men over women. Right?
That's where they belong.
Are you a Republican?
So, all right, so now this is important because they have some vulnerability here. Okay, what are progressive values on this issue from Group 1?
We put down that government should not be making decisions like this, that we're restricting the options of the doctor, the educated doctor.
Okay, so government should not interfere.
Right.
Okay.
Individual decision-making should be allowed.
Individual.
Big government.
Okay. So you guys got the trick question. I'm really sorry, and it's the reason it's a trick question because this demonstrates how powerful framing is, right? The idea that government should not interfere and it's an individual personal decision are conservative. Conservative.
That's the biggest hypocritical part about these Republicans is this.
No, it's actually wrong of progressives to talk about it in terms of big government, because it's creating it's reinforcing the distrust of government. Okay, let me help you out. This is where progressives should be in terms of government. First of all, it's freedom. Number one, this is women's freedom. No, it's not. No, it's not choice. No. This is a woman's freedom to control her own life. No, because she can make, because hers would say getting pregnant if you don't want it is a bad decision, so you should suffer.
The gal that's ready for the fight tape is saying personal decision.
Yeah, I know. not effective. Okay, that's all I'll say. It's a freedom. It's a woman's freedom to control her own life, not to have men.
Well, we have our message.
Yeah, give me your message, because I want to get back to the thing here. Yep.
A woman's freedom to make a uniquely difficult and personal decision that impacts her health and the health of her family must be preserved.
That's very good. To make a personal decision, and I'm just going to put ... Because I want to, there's something that we can just tweak this a little bit. So yeah, say the whole thing again, Penny.
A woman's freedom to make a uniquely difficult and personal decision that impacts her health and the health of her family must be preserved.
Okay. You're really close to kind of what I was going to get to. We talked about it before. What's the moral role of government? Protect and empower. Okay. So progressives should talk about that our government has a responsibility to protect and empower a woman's freedom to make those personal decisions.
Don't the conservatives turn around and say, no, the government has the responsibility to protect the life of that child?
So, thank you. You guys are right on top of it. Hold on. So you know the public, or you could say we, as functioning as a public, have a responsibility to protect a woman's freedom. Okay, that's number one. I'm just adding the public we have a responsibility to protect a woman's freedom to make a personal decision. Okay.
They change it to protect the fetus.
So, we just like with the environment, we talk about systemic causation, right? Here's what we need to start talking about. Stop referring to it as an unborn child. Stop referring to it as a baby. Call it what it is. Say that it is an unviable fetus. Okay? You have an unviable tissue mass that can't survive outside the womb. Well, you got to be careful, but right, it does evoke that, right? But here's the thing. So in that context, which is the truth, that is the scientific truth about what is going on. So it is the woman whose freedom must be protected. And that's what we should say. Did you cognitively, at 20 weeks, the fetus is not capable of making the neural connections to sense anything.
A 20-year-old is not cognitive.
That would be a brilliant thing to say. My 9-year-old son, and he is, my 9-year-old son can't make the cognitive connections, the neural connections to make decisions or function. Thank you. Right? That 20-week-old fetus that can't survive outside the mother can't do it. So we have a responsibility to protect a woman's freedom.
Question about the use of the word freedom.
Absolutely.
It's been bannered around.
Yep.
And it is, in fact, a word that's used a great deal by the conservatives. Would we be better served by using a different term, like personal liberty?
No.
And if not, why not?
This is what freedom is. Get George Lakoff's book. It's called Whose Freedom? It's a contested term.
Is that a new one?
No, it's 10 years. Whose freedom? It's a contested term. There's tons of documentation on how people, that they've done research on, cognitive research, how people understand freedom based on the context of which frame it's used in. So people do still understand the progressive idea of freedom. Even some conservatives do. It's a contested term. So when you talk about a woman's freedom to control her life, make a personal decision that government or the public or we as a community, right? As a community, we have a responsibility to protect a woman's freedom, everyone's freedom. You see, we get the community thing back in there.
The community allows women's.
Ooh, say that. No, say that. A healthy community
Protects the freedom of women to make decisions about their health.
Or in a healthy community, women are free to make decisions
Right.
about their bodies and their lives, about their health.
And are you saying liberty is not a contested?
Liberty is not
Liberty
contested.
Is owned by the conservatives?
Liberty is very long understood as meaning personal liberty to do something in your personal interest, in your self-interest. Okay?
I wanted to ask, when is someone going to teach this to the DNC?
We don't have time to answer that question. George Lakoff, the day after the election in November, wrote a piece. It's called Democrats Lost Big, Here's Why. Read it. That will answer your question.
Where's the source on that?
Just Huffington Post, I think it first published.
Okay, Democrats lost big.
Here's why. Okay.
What's the difference between liberty and liberal? Isn't that the same, right?
No. Oh, root? Probably. Linguistically? Right. But the evolution of the term? Yep. So, I got to jump up front here quick, and then we'll go back to the board. So, here's the point I wanted to get to. You don't have to answer this now, but this is what I want you to think of, right? You have 5 issues. Did you notice independently how much commonality there is in message? That's the whole point. Come up with a message that sticks in your brain, right? There are some key words here. Community is a big one. Healthy, prosperous. What else? Shared responsibility. Responsibility. Pointing out systemic facts about people who work as profit creators. Quality of life. Providing opportunity for everyone. I mean, I would say this whole healthy community is a prosperous community or a free community. That can be your starting point. And how does that translate to different issues?
It's a systemic kind of.
It is. It's a very systemic concept. Okay.
Wouldn't,
last question. No.
Wouldn't conservatives say they share the same values? If we said, you sit across from a conservative person and say, I'm a Democrat or I'm a progressive because I believe in empathy and fairness and shared responsibility.
Yes.
That person is going to say, cool, so do I.
Yes.
They're halfway here.
It's just how we believe that those values are actually.
No, because they're biconceptual. If you sat down with them and said, I think that everybody can pull themselves up by their bootstraps, that people should be responsible for their own behavior and they should be held accountable, they would agree with that too. Those are 2 different frames. They both are understood because most of us are biconceptuals. The idea is to activate empathy when you talk to people about issues. And when you talk to a conservative and say, I think a healthy community is a prosperous community, here's why. Because in education, we share responsibility to provide education for every child, or opportunity for every child through our public schools environment. So this is how you reach biconceptuals. And you're right, they would agree, most of them. Some would say no. A small amount would say no, but some would say, just like you, I mean, if you can watch a John Wayne movie and understand why he punched a guy in the nose for stepping out of line, you have conservative values. Mary.
How might you message kind of going back to the Milwaukee expansion, or
Yeah.
what's a progressive
Well, I would say that. Because, and in Milwaukee, I would focus on the community schools. Because what they are doing is they are saying that we are going to destroy community schools even more. And if a healthy community is a prosperous community, you're destroying what makes a community healthy. Exactly, right. So you can keep activating your progressive frame. I have cards up here. I have resources on my website. I have a new subscription service, which does cost an annual fee, but I have a webinar platform to maintain. But as I've suggested to other people, if you have a group of 10 or 20 people and you want to exercise this on a regular basis, if everybody chips in a little bit, you can do it. And I'm doing monthly webinars that are live and archived. It's a browser-based platform, so you don't need any software. My first bi-weekly newsletter just went out this week. There's legislators that have subscribed. There's people all over the state. There's a discussion forum on the website. So, and even aside from that, I have videos I post all the time. I have a blog. So whatever. And again, my email's on the card. Don't be afraid. Mary and Ann know that I'm pretty reachable. And so. Any other questions? This is a fantastic group. Wow.
When and where is your next class?
Okay, so there's 3 coming up for Move to Amend in Madison. I haven't posted it on the website yet, but I will this week. It's like July. Oh, sorry, they combined 2 into 1. So it's July 19th, August 30th. There's one pending in southern Wisconsin with Rita Whitwer and kind of some rural caucus folks. That is going to be sometime in late June, early July. They've got a doodle poll out to decide that. I'll be up in, it's either Wausau or Stevens Point. There's the region, what's Josh's group? Region 2? Region 1? Uniserve?
I still don't know the location.
Josh Skulon and Rhinelander. So I think it's going to be in Wausau. So Region 2 Uniserve.
We can find them on your website, though?
Yeah, a lot of these have just come up, and I'll be posting them this week. But that one will be coming up in, that is July, that's like a Monday. There's a bunch of other ones that people have doodle polls out to decide on dates. So I'll put them up as they, so.
For the 3rd time, about that article I brought
Oh, yeah.
this morning, a letter to the editor. The person was writing, actually it's about gun
Gun control.
not gun, but registering, getting background checks. And she's comparing it to that it's a religious issue. It's a moral issue, and people have a right to walk the trestle trail and be safe. So how effective was?
I thought it was really good. The other thing that's effective with that is to make it a public health issue.
Public safety?
Right, health and safety issue. But I think that goes into line with the idea that so government has the responsibility to protect and empower people. So to protect people from violence and danger, and then to empower them to be free and enjoy life. So I think honestly, it's great to evoke the progressive idea of religion because it doesn't get done enough, and people get it. The idea that we have responsibility for others is very powerful. So if you have that responsibility also to protect and empower other people, then how can you possibly want people to just get a gun anytime they want and go out and, Thank you all very much. This was a phenomenal group. And I hope this is going to bring about something that is cohesive and cognitively effective for you.
Hey, we owe a big thanks to Mary and to Ann for setting this up.
Yeah.